So the next area in vendor master general data, vendor general data. Under the vendor general data, the first field is vendor number, specifies an alphanumeric key that uniquely identifies the vendor in the SAP system. So the next field, account group. So generally we used to call this a vendor account group. The account group is a classifying feature with vendor master records. The account group determines the number of interval for the account number of the vendor, whether the number is assigned by the user or by the system, which specifications are necessary and are possible in the master record. So based on the client requirement, we need to set up the vendor account group. It's a kind of template. We can create multiple vendor account group template based on our client requirement. For example, domestic vendor account group, foreign vendor group, and one-time vendor account group, like that. Each and every vendor group having their own set of field based on the client requirement. So the next field, customer, gives an alphanumeric key which clearly identifies the customer or vendor in the SAP system. So the next field, group key. If the customer or the vendor belongs to a group, you can enter a group key here. The group key is freely assignable. If you create a math code using this group key, group evaluation are possible. So the next field, block function, key that determines which procurement functions, for example, request for quotation, purchase order, or goods receipt, should be blocked for quality reasons. The function for the block key can be set in the customizing applications. So usage, you can enter a block key in the supplier master record. In this case, the supplier block applies to all materials and plants. So second one is quality info record for quality management and procurement. In this case, the supplier blocks applies to a single material and plant. A block for quality reasons applies only to those materials for which QM in procurement is active. You can deactivate a block key that is active for a particular material and plant by entering a control key for QM in procurement in the material master record, in which the indicator block inactive is set. So the next field, VSR, relevant, indicator denoting that data can be stored for a vendor master record at sub range level. So the next field, plant relevant, indicator denote that the data can be kept in the supplier master record at plant level. So then the next field, plant, key that uniquely identifies a plant. It may be our own plant, our own company code plant, or other company code plant. So then repetition, annual repetition for the data limit. The system uses only the day and the month of the date limit for external document identification. When you select the annual repetition field, the system determines the year based on the current year. This enables you to define the annual repetition of the numbering system for external identification of documents with a one-off entry. So the next field, date limit for external document identification. The system checks whether EDI partners have already used the same external identification for a transmitted document. The time period that the system checks is from the beginning of the EDI communication when the date field is blank. You can use the same date limit to restrict the period within which the system checks. The system checks the transmissions for which the creation date is between today and the date limit. So the procedure define a date limit when your EDI partner restarts the numbering of documents from a certain date. Otherwise, the system determines duplicates. So the next field, train station. The name of the train station that the customer uses for receiving routine deliveries. The train station may differ from the station that the customer uses for express deliveries. So the next one, origin acceptance, specifies whether the acceptance of the ordered goods is to take place at the point of origin. So that is on the supplier premises. So the usage, if the indicator has been set, you must post the goods receipt to valuated GR blocked stock using the movement type 107 as soon as the goods have been accepted at the supplier facility. In a second step, you can post the goods from the valuated GR block stock to unrestricted use stock using movement type 109 as soon as the goods have been delivered by the supplier. So the dependencies, you cannot change the indicator in the purchasing document item. Once you have posted a follow on document for the purchasing document item, we used to call as invoice receipt. The follow on document is nothing but goods receipt and invoice receipt. So the next field, DMA indicator. So report key for data medium exchange. DMA is nothing but data medium exchange indicator. For foreign payments using a data medium exchange in Germany, this field controls whether the contents of the single data record are also included in the report to the Bundesbank when being made by the paying financial institutions. If no entry is made, the value will be determined from the DMI space for the house bank. Check the settings in customizing for house bank by the selecting the house bank there and check the reporting dates. So the next field, instruction key. Instruction key for data medium exchange. For automatic payment transactions, this field along with the house bank country and the payment method determined by the payment program controls which statements are given to the participating banks when carrying out the payment order. This field is used in countries such as Germany, Australia, the Netherlands, Spain, Norway, Finland, Japan, as well as for the international SWIFT format MT100. Selecting the instruction key. If data medium exchange is used, as well as in special cases when using document based payment orders, the instruction key must be maintained in the customer/vendor master record or in the system configuration for data medium exchange data for the house bank. The following holds regarding the instruction key. Number one, if the instruction key is maintained in the master record, then this instruction key is used. If no instruction key exists in the vendor master record, then the default instruction key defined for the house bank is used. Consequently, it is not necessary to provide all business partners with an instruction key, only the exceptions need to be maintained. So, note number one, if it is necessary to specify a instruction key for a business partner's house bank that differs from the instruction key defined in the master record. This can be done when editing the payment proposal. Note number two, the instruction key must be entered in the document for one-time accounts. Note number three, the four instruction key fields belonging to the instruction key can be overridden by entering instruction key in the document. So the additional data screen in the customer or vendor line. So the next field, payee in document. If this indicator is set, you can enter an address or bank details for automatic payment transactions in the document, which differ from those in the master record. This applies only to postings to this customer or vendor. So then alternative payee, the account number of the vendor which whom automatic payment transactions are carried out. So the usage, the field is only needed if payments are not to be made directly to the vendor to whom the payable is owed. The same applies to the bank collections of receivables. The important note, the specifications in this field applies to all company codes. There is a further field in which every company code can enter an alternative payee separately. Both fields are filled the company code specifications as priority. So the next field, BBC ISR number. So POR stands for payment order with reference number, a special payment procedure of the Swiss Postal Service. The field is therefore only relevant in Switzerland. Every vendor who participates in this procedure receives a subscribe number providing the POR procedure is to be used in automatic payment transactions. This subscriber number is to be entered in the master record. When entering invoices for vendor accounts, the subscriber number is copied into the document. The payment program pays all invoices with POR number individually. For data medium exchange, the transaction TA826 for data medium exchange and TA08 for SAD are created. When pointing out a form, only a note is printed so that the appropriate blue payment order can be attached to the authorized payment order. So the next field, payment reason, identifies the reason for the payments. The payment reason classifies the type of the payment transactions such as salary payment, purchase of goods, purchase of services, and so on that you transfer from one bank to other. The payment reasons identify the payment according to the regulatory reporting requirements of your bank on or the local authorities. For example, the payment reason 0001, salary payments 0002, purchase of goods. So the next field, social insurance. Taxes in Argentina. An entry in this field shows whether the vendor has social insurance. This information is required for tax reporting purposes. This field is only applicable for the country of Argentina. So the next one, social insurance code. Taxes in Argentina. The activity indicator used for tax reporting in connection with social insurance payments. And this field also only for the country Argentina. So the next field, standard carrier access code. The standard carrier access code SCAC is an indicator used by forwarding agents in North America. Unique code for identifying a forwarding agent. So and this code only used for North America. The next field, core freight group. The forwarding agent freight group is used to group forwarding agents to determine freight code set. Usage, the freight code set determined with the forwarding agent freight group is used to define freight codes and classes. These are used for calculating freight cost and for communication with service agents. Procedure, maintain the relevant groups for the forwarding agent. So the next field, status group agent, refers to a status group for transportation service agent and is used to determine the data that the system updates in the logistics information system or we used to call as transportation information system. Usage, you can assign statistics groups to the following categories: transportation service agent and shipment type. If you create statistics in the transportation information system, the system uses the combination of the specified statistics groups for determining the updating group. This in turn determines the fields for which the statistics are created. So the next field, service agent procedure. The service agent procedure group is used for determining the pricing procedure for shipment cost calculation. The next field is external manufacturer, specifies the name or number used by the manufacturer, that is not the one assigned by the RT system. Then next field, POD relevant, supplier indicator relevant for proof of delivery. This indicator controls the process of proof of delivery during the incoming goods process for inbound deliveries. Processing is activating by switching on this indicator in the supplier master and by switching on the corresponding indicator in the delivery item category. There are the following different characteristics. So if you don't enter any data, keep it as blank, not relevant for POD. If enter A, generally relevant for POD. If enter B, only relevant for POD. If differences, so difference between notified quantity and actual quantity received. So POD is nothing but proof of delivery. The next field, carrier confirmation. This flag controls whether a confirmation message from the carrier portal is expected before the delivery can be executed. Usage, this flag is used for the return deliveries in the ERP system during the complaints and return process. If you want the selected carrier to be informed about the delivery, this flag determines whether the additional shipment information from the carrier is expected. So this located in the carrier's supplier master data. Dependencies, to use this flag you need to know the following: carrier notification flag, delivery confirmation status and shipment status. The next field, central deletion block. This indicator specifies that the general data in the master record may not be deleted. Central deletion flag indicates that all data in this master record is to be deleted. To delete this data, you have to run the archiving program for accounts receivable or payable. This program will archive all master records marked for deletion provided that there is no dependent data in them. Important note, delete flags can also be used in the program for deleting master data. You should, however, run this program only to delete test data prior to production startup. The next one is alternative payee. Indicator that vendor account number which can be specified as alternative payee during document entry or defined. The usage, the field informs you as to whether alternative payee were specified. Procedure, when maintained or displaying master data, you can branch to the maintenance or display or the permitted payee using the function key next to the indicator. So the dependencies, the indicator is not ready for input but is set by the system depending on the existence of alternative payees.